Hello there, my name is Victor Oguinka, and you're welcome to the midweek edition of Today in the News, and of course all of those newspapers across the Federation, and looking at the major headlines everywhere.
Over 1,000 people are benefiting from free medical services provided by the FCT chapter.
Arsenal's first club transfer record signed Pep.
Hello and welcome to Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Precious Chukudi and I'm with my co-host. You look very beautiful and radiant. I can see. Alright, let's just move straight to the front pages of the papers, and we'll be starting off with Vanguard, and the main headline says anger as Labour leaders abort strike mass protest. The writer says Labour sold out group ex-NHRC chairman Odinkalu blast Labour, JAF disown Labour, NLC TUC official fought suspension, a colossal disappointment, says Kogi workers. We are surprised by Kwara workers. Also, Ibadan resident protest suspension. Labour leaders protest strike suspension in Edo. Federal government will incur IMF World Bank's wrath if Labour has long been very patient with this government, SLA, ex-TUC president. COVID-19 updates. Lagos records 71 new infections as confirmed cases rise to 58,460. You can see that on page 35. In stories above, we have Lagos financially, economically viable, says government. You can see that on page 11. And on page 8, 2.67 billion naira school feeding funds found in private accounts, says ICPC. And on page 36, BAGA ambush. Zulu meets family of fallen policemen, CJTF. And on page 7, the regulation, NNPC paid itself 1.53 trillion naira as subsidy for petrol in 3 years, says report. Also, there's a photo story of aborted strike, protest and security siege in Ibadan, Calabar, and Lagos over the failed nationwide strike. And stories beneath, we have federal government lobbies the National Assembly for urgent passage of PIB. You can see that story on page 8 and page 6. Sex toy shop saga. Abuja court slams 50 million naira fine on senator for assaulting woman. And lastly, on the front page of the Vanguard, we have Amechi Wike renews verbal war. And away from the Vanguard newspaper, we move straight to the Punch newspaper.
And on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have a breakup warning, 60th independence anniversary. ACF wants Osinbanjo over utterance. Ohanaeze, Afenifere others back Vice President. Firm admits on LD cracks, opposes comments that can worsen tension. Government doing nothing to address cracks. Prayers not enough, says Ohanaeze. You can see more of that on page 2. And on the stories below, we have 10 die, many injured in Ogun Anambra crash. Mimiko seeking third term by supporting Akeredolu's deputy, and that's coming from APC. You can see that on page 8. APC government planning bridge linking Ondo with Lagos, says Sanwo-Olu. And Oyo workers, students protest accuse labor leaders of betrayal. And on the stories above, still on page 8, we have a National Assembly. We work on PIB 2021 budget simultaneously. That's coming from the leaders. We've not been informed of tariff hike suspension, says this schools. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch, we have INEC plans migration to e-voting meets machine producers. And you can see that on page 7. From the front page of Punch, we move straight to this day newspaper.
And on this day newspaper, we have main headlines. OPS opposes suspension of new electricity tariff. Says it will roll back gains of reform. Kyari, NNPC will implement agreement. APC hails federal government organized labor on truce. Also, INEC begins migration to electronic voting. Invites over 40 companies for demonstration. And away from this day newspaper, we move straight to the Nation.
And on the front page of the Nation, we have NLC TUC leaders under attack for suspending strike. And the rider, ex-labor chief orders back union. Panel on power tariff review begins work. You can see more of that on page 5. And on the stories above, we have Lagos generates 72% of expenditure. Government all our finances okay. You can see more of that on page 8. And on page 2, we have why Akeredolu is best for Ondo by Sanwo-Olu. Police will replicate Edo's success in Ondo. And lastly, we have alliance talks with SZLP not foreclosed, says PDP chief.
And that's all we can take for the front pages of the papers this morning. We're moving into the newspaper analysis segment where we're joined in by our guest via Zoom, and she's the person of Mrs. Fumi Komolafe, former labor editor of Vanguard newspaper. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Alright, welcome back, and if you're just joining, it's still Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Precious Chukudi, and I have with me my co-host. And we have our guest who is joining us via Zoom, and she's in the person of Mrs. Fumi Komolafe, our former labor editor of Vanguard newspaper. Good morning, ma. It's good to have you in the studio.
Good morning. It's nice to be with you again.
I think we're having
we're having a little bit of issue, but we're trying to resolve it now with connecting directly with her. Let's see.
Some of the story. Okay.
Hello, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay. So it's good to have you this morning, ma.
Yeah, nice to be with you too.
Right. So, we're looking at, labor, anger as labor leaders, abort strike, mass protest, and there was a meeting with labor union and also the federal government, and there were some resolutions that was reached by both sides at the meeting. Do you think that, looking at the resolution in itself, do you think that this resolution is enough to quell the anger of the citizens?
Well, I think that first of all, strikes are not meant to be reactions to anger or other emotional reaction of people. This particular strike, and I think many of the strikes we've had in this country, are reactions to political decisions that impact the lives of people negatively. Now, the role of organized labor represents its members. Let's get that very clear. But over the years, they have come to work together with civil society groups. And this has produced very, very good results. It has helped the masses of this country to be released from the economic clutches of the powers that be, who did not seem to appreciate the effects of the negative policies, of their negative economic policies on the people. So I think that what happened was that the NLC felt that its members had been pushed to the wall, and that the new minimum wage, or the minimum wage of 30,000, will not take anybody anywhere, with double increase in the time electricity tariff and prices of petrol or petroleum products at the same time. Therefore, labor was right to react to it. Although there are issues, whether what was agreed was enough to suspend the strike. My own position would have been, or my own position is, organized labor should have waited for government to be seen or fulfill its own part of that agreement before suspending the strike. I don't ever believe that they are bribed or they are compromised. No. I don't think so. Because a strike is not a tea party. Okay? So even for the labor leaders, it's not something that they want to embark on. But when the government pushes to the wall, and in this country that is what we have, governments don't take organized labor or civil society groups seriously until they are pushed to the wall. And when you begin to see government officials panic, legislator, minister, presidency, running helter-skelter, they are jittery. And why are they jittery? They know that a good strike can bring an end to the government, and they don't want an end to their government. It's not because they want to make the masses of the people or the greater number of the people comfortable. It's not so at all. At all. They still hang on to their neoliberal policies that has not benefited us since 1986. Organized labor has been so consistent. In fact, as a matter of fact, since 1985, since the Vanguard regime, when the NLC produced the document, Nigeria is not for sale, successive governments have not deviated from these things. What are we talking about? Privatization, deregulation, privatization where national assets are sold to their cronies. These things are still going on, and they don't benefit the people. However, it is very easy to blame labor leaders. But what about the people in the civil society? Before this strike, I saw a lot of intellectuals, supposed intellectuals, saying that this is not the time for strike, we're just coming out of COVID, the nation does not need a strike. How else do we want labor to react? Now they have called us. The same people, or they suspended, because the language is suspended. And in labor parlance, when they say suspend, it means it can be renewed.
Okay, you said something about some intellectuals, but if you look at what they said, the economy is in a bad shape. Don't they have a point by saying that how can we be going on strike now, seeing that most people are even out of jobs, and also they lack funding for themselves?
The economy is in bad shape, but if you want to eat home eggs, you have to break an egg. Okay? Look, the economy is in bad shape. It's not an excuse for you not to make a point to get it better. Except if you don't want it to get better. If you want to get it better, there's nothing wrong with pushing for a strike, even for one day. Even for one day. Not to have it even for an hour is the reason why people are disappointed and people are saying that they are compromised. I would never subscribe to that, but I know that a strike, call it suspending a strike or mobilization for a strike, is not a one-man show. But that's what the NLC ought to have done, which I think they probably didn't do right. And TUC, having reached this agreement with government, tell them, look, we are mobilized. Give us 24 hours to get to our members. I covered several strikes, and I saw this happen several times. Okay? What the NLC should have done, and the TUC leadership, is to say, okay, these are your terms. Allow us to call a one-day meeting of our members. Go back to our constituency. Give them the feedback, and then we know whether we suspend the strike. That they didn't do. And that is what is giving room for people saying, oh, they have been compromised. I don't think they have been compromised. It's a strategy that they use that may not be popular with people. That's just my take on this. Okay,
all right. So, it was gathered that, the reason why the federal government is insisting on the increase of fuel price and electricity tariff is to avoid incurring the wrath of lending institutions to which Nigeria is indebted to. What are your thoughts on this statement?
Incurring the wrath of who?
Of lending institutions to which Nigeria is indebted to.
No. Well, that's their own argument. Again, I without sounding on the side of government, let me remind us of something. Because we all tend to be talking about, the prices have gone up now, and we're all angry, we don't like it. But what about the time that the prices were crashing? Don't forget that in about the past 2 months or thereabout, we had slash in prices of PMS in particular. Okay? If we understand fully what the regulation means, it also means that these prices are subject to forces of supply and demand, and therefore it will fluctuate. However, the position of NLC, organized labor, has been that you cannot fully deregulate without putting in place our own local refineries. We cannot subject our demand and supply only to international markets as an oil producing nation. What happened to our refineries? Up to today, no government has been able to make our refineries work. So to that extent, I think that what the government should do when it comes up like this, although again, you have to look at the other side of it, that as the government itself earned enough money, I think a major problem with governance in this country is lack of consultation. Look, give it to the government of Ibrahim Babangida in 1986 at a point. Whenever I wanted to present a budget, there was always input. Then the late Professor Boyade was the chairman of the economic team of the Babangida regime. Labour then will be asked to make input, and then their input will be taken, maybe not 100%, but part of what they want. Like if we had had a proper consultative forum of government, civil society, society, and I mean real civil society. I'm not talking of people who use civil society to make money and they are just crooks in civil society. I'm not talking of those people. I'm talking of genuine people who are in civil society groups and then organized labor. If we had a regular consultative forum, okay, of social partners, let's even talk about social partners, that leads to civil society. Who are the three social partners? Government, private sector, organized labor, as constituted by the ILO. If we had that type of organization that has been discussing, this would have been emphasized, and then something would have been done so that people will not feel the effect so much, and it will not be done at the same time. I mean, that's killing someone with a two-edged sword. There's petroleum increase, there's hike in electricity. Where will the masses run to? And in the case of electricity, it's even worse because you don't even have it. If you don't have it, in the case of PMS, you can say, okay, at least we have gone over the days of scarcity, sleeping in the filling station. But in the case of electricity, there has been no improvement. So how do you make people? How do you convince them to pay for what is not available?
Okay, ma, still talking about electricity, according to, a source that was at the meeting with the TUC, NLC, and the federal government on Thursday, they said that they demanded that labor and other critical sectors must be part of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. So do you think them being part of this NERC, do you think it will answer some of the questions that Nigerians are asking in terms of the electricity hike?
Of course it does. Of course it does. That's what I mean when I said exactly what I meant when I said consultation. What's wrong with organized labor being part of it? What's wrong with it? So that you can say certain things. These people are just out for profit. They are not thinking of the effect of their action on the end users, the masses. Okay? But if there is a voice there, that voice can as well say, let's take a second look at this. This is what we do. For instance, we don't have prepaid meters, estimated bills, and you're paying so much for what you are not even using. You will see that a lot of people who have prepaid meters don't complain a lot because it's what you use, that you pay for. Although the hike in electricity tariff will also affect the prepaid meter. But at least in that case, you can regulate. You can know when to put on certain things in your home. You can know when to put on certain things, power generated items in your home. So of course, it is ideal and it is necessary for us to have labor representation in some of these organizations. Okay, ma,
let's just go to talk about ICPC. That's the Independent Corrupt Practices and other related offense commission. We yesterday uncovered 2.67 billion naira in personal accounts, being payments made to some federal colleges for schools for school feeding during the lockdown. What do you think of these current findings?
Some will say shocking because this is the government that prides itself anti-corruption. But some will also say it is not shocking because we also know that corruption is not over. It is still on. People in government are still stealing. There are no angels in this government. Maybe a few have integrity, but also a lot of them don't have integrity. I'm not surprised, honestly. I am not surprised. It is just that it is unfortunate that some people use their privileged position to deny the greater number of these people benefits that they ought to derive from this country. I hope that the ICPC will go the full hog to name these people and give them public trial. It's not enough to say it's been found. Who are they? How much is it? Let us know. And let the trial begin. Let the trial begin. Open trial. No secret trial.
But how do you think we can put a stop to this corruption that is rampant in this, of course, in our society?
All right, let's look at.
And it's at every level. It's at every level. It's at every level. Because people are not earning living wage. People cannot live honestly on income. They are not corruption. What you cannot take on the table, you take on the table. This is what's happening. Very few people have integrity, want to live above you. Very few people.
All right, ma. Let's look at the regulation, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, that's NNPC, paid itself 1.53 trillion naira as subsidy on petrol. In fact, they coined the term under recovery instead of subsidy because it was not appropriated in the budget for for some affected years. That's for like about 3 years. What are your thoughts on this going on in the NNPC?
I think this is a very shocking revelation. What is NNPC paying itself for? Subsidizing what? I don't understand. Is it subsidizing government? Is it subsidizing itself for doing what? Is it the money they pay to marketers? Or the money they pay to themselves? I don't understand. We need to get to the root of it. And I think all of these problems are compounded by the fact that nobody seems to be in charge of petroleum in this country. With all due respect to Mr. President, we don't have a Minister of Petroleum Resources. He says he is the president, he is the minister, but the man's hands are so full. I don't think he has time to know what is going on in NNPC. We have the Minister of State, yes, but there's a limit to what the Minister of State can do. And in any case, it is what the Minister of State presents to him that he gets to know, or what NNPC presents to him. So I don't understand. I think this is a big scandal that investigated them. If they think it's their right, that they are entitled to it, then let them explain to the public how they are entitled to it and the sources.
Okay, but what's your take on the petroleum industry bill that they are pushing for, that they are urgently calling for it to be passed?
Well, I think for a long time, unions in the oil sector, Nubank, Vanguard, they have been calling on the government to sign the petroleum industry bill. Yes, that's what we know. What are the other details? What are the full benefits of it? Does it mean we will refine? If it means we will refine, where are the refineries? If it is signed, are we fully equipped for the implementation of everything that is contained in that bill? So these are the things we need to know. And some of the things in the bill are a bit technical. You need to be in the oil industry to fully understand what they're talking about. But I am not too sure that we have the wherewithal to implement everything that is contained in that bill. I have my very strong doubts about it. And so in effect, what I'm saying is that signing it may not be the end of our woes in the petroleum industry in this country.
Okay, federal government yesterday urged Nigerians to make effective use of oil, saying that in the coming years, oil will soon become worthless. According to the weather, to the oil forecast, it says that in 2040 that oil will become less relevant in the economic industry. Now, do you think we Nigerians are ready? The federal government are really ready for this, for oil to actually become worthless?
We're not ready today, but we should prepare. We should begin to work towards it. If there are technological advancements, you don't sit down and fold your hands. Let us be seen to be taking steps towards it. We have a lot of gas, yes, but how do we use it? Is it going to be enough? Is it going to reach us? I hope it's not something we're going to be importing gas again. So we have to prepare for technological changes, even if we're not ready for it now. Since there's a projection, let us be seen to be taking steps towards the actualization of that
Okay, let's look at what INEC is trying to conduct for elections that will be coming, and they have commenced processes that will lead to the replacement of manual voting with an electronic voting system. Now, how effective would this be to us having credible elections in the country if we switch from manual voting to electronic voting?
Well, when we say electronic voting, what format? Definitely is going to deny the greater number of people the opportunity to exercise their franchise. Whether we may live in the cities, but what about the vast majority of the people who live in the rural areas, in a country that has no electricity or irregular electricity? How many people in the villages have access to mobile phones? What type of e-voting? When you say e-voting, is it the type that you're going to slot in your voter's card and you thumbprint, or how? Is it what you're going to do from your house? Are you going to go to voting centers? We need to know. It's not enough for INEC to just sit down and some consultant brings an MOU and says that this is how to do it, and then we are not looking at what will benefit the greater number of our people, and then we adopt. To adopt what will not be beneficial to the greater number of our people is a disservice. That's not democracy. We must do something that our people, the greater number of our people, can have a voice and have a say. So I don't know, electronic voting can take many shapes. It depends on what kind of technology is adapted.
All right, thank you so much.
It is also not foolproof. It can also be manipulated.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Fumi Komolafe, for joining us this morning, former Labour editor of Vanguard newspaper. It's good to have you this morning.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. All right, you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen, as well as you want to get up-to-date stories. You can go on our website www.vanguardngr.com to find out more of what's happening by the minute. Till we come your way next time, of course, I remain Precious Chukudi, and I have been my co-host.
Thank you
Thank you for watching.